Hey guys, how y'all doing today? My name is Franchise Fanatic and welcome back to the channel. And today, if you guys, is another movie review. Now, I did review The Hobbit 1, 2, and 3, the extended versions, back a while, and I wanted to do more, but then I had the Skywalker Saga because of the LEGO game, and now we're finally at the Lord of the Rings trilogy, tackling The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring Extended Edition. Now, I've seen the Lord of the Rings trilogy a bunch of times, like The Hobbit. However, I've never seen the Lord of the Rings trilogy extended before. And I believe this normal version is like 178 minutes, 177 minutes, something like that. And this is the extended. It's so it essentially went from 178, let's just say, to 228. So it's a pretty substantial, boost in length. And let me just say that I think that this is a strong film as it is. However, it's pretty freaking wild because this is the first time, like I said, I've seen this extended, and I'm just gonna put that down. I gotta be completely honest. This is the definitive version of Lord of the Rings: Fellowship of the Ring. Now, of course, I have not seen Two Towers and Return of the King yet. However, this film, it's the same film. It's the exact same thing as the normal version, except that this version is a lot. There's a little bit more in the beginning, and there's a lot in Lothlorien, where Galadriel and all that. So there's a lot more like Celeborn. There's a lot of different elements in there. Really, it's not like a major difference, but it does add more weight and more lore to the franchise and to the film, and that's what's really cool. You really get the sense that. Because these are long, all 6 of these films by themselves are long effing films. But when you compare, the normal 6 to the extended 6, yes, they're longer by a good margin, but it's not padded, It's not like stupid and boring. It adds to the lore and it adds to the world, and it also adds to the character. So like Boromir, take Boromir, for example, in the normal Fellowship of the Ring, you kind of get the sense that something's kind of off with him, and then he kind of turns on Frodo, and then of course he repents and he dies. But in this film, there's added scenes of him and Aragorn, him kind of explaining the whole Gondor situation, how his king is, he loves his king, but it's kind of, he's kind of crooked, and he's just kind of becoming, not a great king, and Boromir wants to see that happen, and he, I'll just take the ring, and I'll fix Gondor. And there's a lot of really cool moments like that where, in the normal version, it's not as profound. In this version, it's very much, in there. It's like, well, no, we're going the extra mile. We're going to showcase you why Boromir thinks the way he does. And that's the greatest strength of the extended version of this film. It's the same film, but it's better. And I know that sounds like a no crap moment, but it is the definitive version of this film, and I'm going to assume the trilogy. Hobbit, same way. The Hobbit extended trilogy is the best way to watch those films, and this is the same with Fellowship of the Ring. Again, I've seen Fellowship so many freaking times. I played the LEGO game, right? Tons of times. I know the story by heart. And there were added scenes where I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Again, some of it is not necessarily needed, but, it does help build the world. And none of it's boring, none of it's stupid. In terms of negatives, I would have to say that the negatives all barrel down to the original version content. So, like, there's that moment where Legolas and, they're all kind of like as they're going to Amon Hen, right? You see Lurtz, the Uruk-hai. He's kind of freaking trucking through the woods, and Peter Jackson has this really weird... Look, Peter's a great effing director. Let me get that out of the way. He's a fantastic director. A lot of his shots are just awesome, but there's certain moments in this film where the editing's a bit wonky. And I get it's like a 2001, 2002 film. I understand that. But it doesn't hold up in that aspect in certain shots. There's one where the Uruk-hai and the orcs, they're all running, and it's just like kind of... I don't know how to word it. It's kind of like Matrix Bullet Time, but like even worse. And I love Matrix Bullet Time, but it's like that slow motion kind of camera blurriness. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's like really blurry and slow motion, and it's like, it's kind of weird and dumb looking, kind of cheesy, a little bit corny. There's another scene where Galadriel's kind of tempted with the ring, and she kind of turns into like this crazy. She's done that before in The Hobbit 3, Battle of the Five Armies, but when she's rescuing Gandalf. But in Dol Guldur, this is. It's just kind of weird, Like, there's one shot of her looking really, like, demonic, and then the next shot is just normal, just with, like, black paint, black skin, And then it transforms to her again as, like, a ghoul wraith, and the editing, the makeup's all weird, it's off. It's just kind of awkward, because Frodo's just kind of like, oh, okay, this is happening, He's not like, oh my god, she's crazy! He's just like, well, whatever, what are you gonna do? And she's going nuts, and then she's like, I passed the test. what? You know, I'm assuming it has, look, I'm a big Lord of the Rings Middle-earth fan. I don't know everything, but I know a lot. And maybe there's a reason in the books why she goes crazy and kind of loses her marbles. But with that, it does make kind of a cringy and kind of awkward scene. Because directly after that, kind of freak out, Frodo's just, like I said, he's standing there like, oh, this was weird. And then she's like, well, here's the thing. And then she gives him like a motivational speech about whatever. And it's a great scene, but the ghoul scene is a bit out of place and kind of weird. Again, I'm sure it has a reason in the canon, but at the same time, in terms of filming, it was a bit strange. Now, other than that, this is a damn good movie. It stands out from the crowd as the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. They are the best fantasy franchise, period. I love Elden Ring. I love Elder Scrolls. I have not watched a lick of Game of Thrones, but all of those combined, they wish they were as good as the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogies. They freaking wish. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mean Game of Thrones. You know, I'm sure it's a great show. I'll probably watch it one day. But people are like, oh my god, there's boobs in this show. It's fantastic. Look, I'm not against that. I'm a straight dude. But at the same time, you don't need naked ladies to make a good franchise. And I know, I'm sure it has great writing, I get it. But the main draw of the Game of Thrones, especially in the beginning, was naked women. And again, if I was old enough, I would have been like, hell yeah, I'm on that. But at the same time, you know, you don't need that. Like, Lord of the Rings, you know, could you imagine if Aragorn and Arwen are just, like, making out in the woods for an hour? You know what I mean? Like, you don't need that kind of stuff to make a good fantasy setting. And Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit prove that. And again, I'm not against that stuff. Again, I'm a dude, but at the same time, you don't need, it's like Deadpool, you know what I mean? You don't need that sex scene in Deadpool to show me that Wade and Vanessa are in love. I guess it's good to see you're naked. I mean, I guess that was the reason, but, you know what I mean? Like, you don't need a sex scene to show that characters like each other, or to prove a point. And this is exactly what I'm talking about here. This franchise doesn't need anything crazy or anything like, you know, Walking Dead has zombies, and people love gore. You know, it's just a well-crafted, good franchise with a lot of love and a lot of lore and a lot of thinking put into it. It is like Star Wars, Marvel, DC, of course. There's a lot to it. But this feels, especially the extended edition, it feels like a big world-building film. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get the sense that, oh, it's a set, or oh, that's CGI. Because the CGI that's in this film is fantastic. It really, really blends together, and it holds up pretty friggin' well. There's one or two scenes where you can tell Gandalf or whatever, you know, in front of a blue screen or whatever. But there's scenes where like they're running in the Mines of Moria, right? And that big T-shaped rock kind of falls down and they're all running, and it's an iconic shot. That holds up. Or like when when Frodo and Aragorn are about to jump from the one stone to the other, and you know Frodo kind of trips and he's hanging from it, or like when the Balrog grabs Gandalf's ankle, it all looks very flawless. There's that shot too where they're running in Mines of Moria, and you see all of the Fellowship running on this really narrow thing. And I didn't know this, but apparently that shot was entirely CG. The background and the characters, the whole Fellowship, all 9 of them, they're all running, or 8, whatever, minus Gandalf. They're all running across that really narrow thing, and that is completely CG. And that's just effing insane. I didn't even know. Normally when I watch like a Marvel movie, you know, I go, oh, that's CGI, that doesn't look too great. This, you know, when I found that out, it freaking blew my mind. I was like, wow, you know. And yes, you know, a big issue with the Hobbit trilogy for a lot of people is that it was very CGI focused, right? There's not a lot of practical because we went to CGI. I don't really care because the Hobbit CGI is freaking awesome. The Lord of the Rings CGI in this film is good. However, because they're older films, they opted for probably more of a practical, you know, look with the Uruk-hais and the orcs, and you know, a lot of the sets are miniatures. You know, there's so much, you know, model work. It's not, you know, there is CGI, but it's more practical than CGI, and that's what's really cool. And that's probably what makes the Lord of the Rings trilogy for a lot of people stand out and carry on its name even in 2022 because it's real. A lot of it, you know, like when they're running across fields and shit, it's real fields. You know, it's not like, oh, we're running on a treadmill in a freaking parking lot with a bunch of green screens. This is legit in a field, and Hobbit did it too. But again, I'm reviewing this film, so Lord of the Rings is very much, you know, it sets itself up from the past, and it also holds up for the present and probably the future too. I mean, it's a great thing. And now the Rings of Power TV show, I don't know if I'm gonna even watch it. First of all, I don't have Amazon. Screw you, Amazon. Second. Apparently, I'm going to make a whole video about it one day, probably after the trilogy. It seems very woke. They're adding characters that aren't even in the canon, and they're changing skin color because people need to be happy. It's just a whole effing mess. So, I'm assuming Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit are going to be the only good versions of the canon. I think Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor is canon too, but maybe I'll love the show. Who knows? But Rings of Power looks good, but I can definitely tell they went liberal in it. And, I don't like bringing up politics, but that show, from what I've seen and heard, they're trying to, make everyone in the world happy. And when as we all know, when you make everyone in the world happy, you make everyone in the world not happy, because it just ends up being cringy and stupid. Thank God this film franchise, yes, I guess, people go, oh, Aragorn has green hair, or, Gimli, I get it. I didn't read the Lord of the Rings book, so for the book purists out there, I understand. There are some changes to the character designs in this trilogy. Same with The Hobbit. There's stuff, Tauriel, she's not even in the books. Thranduil and Legolas are barely in The Hobbit. So, there's a lot of elements in there where, Peter Jackson clearly took liberties. But Hobbit, and especially this film so far, Lord of the Rings Extended, Fellowship of the Ring, really does stand out. And it's, those added scenes really make, again, the world feel better. And the action scenes are great. The CGI is good. Like I said, the practical effects are freaking awesome. There's a shot where Lurtz, chucks a dagger at Aragorn. And apparently, you'll probably know this, but apparently, the dagger was supposed to go to, his midsection. But the guy, he effed up and he threw it at his freaking head. And Aragorn, slashing the dagger, that was real. He literally slashed the dagger with a sword. That's not fake. Because if he missed, it would have hit him probably in the neck or whatever. So, there's a lot of crazy stuff. Samwise Gamgee, right? Sean Astin, when he's following Frodo in the end, he's like, Mr. Frodo, I'm not leaving you! And he's not Irish. I don't know why I did that. But he apparently stepped on glass in the water, and he, effed up his foot real bad, and he had to go to, a freaking hospital, and the choppers came in. It was a whole thing. So, there's a lot of really good stories in that, and it really, because it's practical, and they're actually they're actually in water. They're actually real swords, and, they're probably, you're not actually going to shoot your cast members with arrows, but, there's a lot of practical, real elements in this, and that's what makes it stand out, and that's what really makes this film feel different than a lot of other major film franchises, even to this day. So many films this day. And look, I'm not against CGI. CGI is effing great. If it's good, it's great. If it's bad, just you can have bad I know everyone's like, practical's the best. You can have bad practical effects. Trust me, I've seen them. And this film has fantastic practical effects. The creature design, everything in this movie just really looks good. Even the CGI, everything just looks awesome. The added scenes are great. The stuff that I remember is still great. And again, I understand why people love it so much. I do love the Hobbit trilogy better so far, but I do think Lord of the Rings is, here's Hobbit and here's Lord of the Rings. It's like a hair. It's like a hair below Hobbit. For me. And I do love this film. Again, there's one or two shots that are a bit weird. There's that scene where Frodo got stabbed by the Morgul blade by the Nazgul, and he's kind of tripping out. He's got fungus all over him, and you see Arwen and Elrond kind of talking, and I get what they're doing because technically the elves can kind of it's almost like the Force, Galadriel can read your mind type thing. So I understand the purpose of the scene where the fading in and out and the bright white colors and Elrond's face just poofs out of the white cloud hello, and it's just, it's phony, it's corny, it's really cringy. Thankfully, it's only not even 10 seconds long of a scene. But, just there's certain directing moments where I'm like, okay, I wouldn't have done it that way. I wouldn't have had that really shuddery, slow motion, weird filming technique that they did. But other than that, this is pretty much a flawless film. The franchise itself, the setup and the lore and just the world building is effing insane. And J.R.R. Tolkien really knocked it out of the ballpark when he made these books. And Peter Jackson freaking killed it with this film. The fourth film in the 6-film saga, but the first film released. This is a good movie. It's a very good movie. I'm going to give The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring Extended Edition an A. Again, I really, really love it. I think it's a fantastic film. One or two directing things I would have think are a little bit cheesy and kind of corny, but other than that, everything surprisingly holds up really well, and I think it will hold up really well for the future years to come. I think especially after Rings of Power, which it looks good, but there's a lot of creative changes that no one's agreeing with. But whatever, that's what happens when you try to appease everyone in today's day and age, right? Everything you say is bad, oh, that's racist and that's sexist and you can't say that today, a lot of that. Looks like it's going to be chucked in this show, but I'm still going to try to watch it. I'm not against it, but it doesn't seem, I understand. I don't agree with the hate behind the Rings of Power show, but I understand it. I understand why people are, oh, you can't have that. That breaks the lore. And I get that, you know, I mean, they're trying to do things that no one agrees with. And hey, maybe it'll be a good show. Who knows? Apparently it's the most expensive show ever made. Who knows? But again, I do love Elden Ring. I love, you know, Elder Scrolls. I have not seen Game of Thrones. I need to. And I also, you know, I do think, though, that the Middle-earth saga, the 6-film franchise here, this is the pinnacle of fantasy. You know what I mean? Like, you got hobbits. You have dwarves. You have wizards who have magical spells. You have elves with bows and arrows. It shouldn't work. It sounds stupid on paper, you know? Bunch of little people with hairy legs and a bunch of tall dudes with wizard hats and sticks. You know what I mean? It really should fall apart. It sounds like a crazy concept. But because it's taken so seriously, and because these films are so well made, and the franchise, the books, are so well written and so well realized, I think that's what makes it work. You know, I mean, you can write and direct the most insane thing you could think of, right? Star Wars makes no sense. That would never happen, you know what I mean? There's no Marvel, you know, there's no purple dude with a bunch of stones in a glove. But all this stuff works because it's well made. And that's just proof, you know what I mean? You could take something really stupid by concept on paper and turn it into something that is worth your time and energy. And the Lord of the Rings franchise and The Hobbit, but especially this film because I'm reviewing it, this film is definitely worth your time. And I'm glad I saw the extended version for sure. You know, I do love the normal version, but I'm really freaking excited to watch Two Towers and Return of the King extended. I cannot wait for that. It's going to be coming up soon. And again, after I finish the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I'm going to be working on probably the MCU. I might do the 4 Lego movies. I'm still thinking about it, but I do want to cover every single film and show of the MCU. It's going to be a pretty long series, but I do want to do that because I haven't seen some of the MCU films in a while, and I figured, hey, you know, I'm probably going to be getting No Way Home soon on Blu-ray, hopefully Black Widow and the Eternals, and then I can just binge them all in, you know, hopefully once a day with all school and all that. But still, I cannot wait to get into that. But still, hope you guys enjoyed Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring Extended. Look out for the Two Towers Extended Edition review very soon. Cannot wait. I love this film, and this really makes me appreciate the film even more and the world even more because it's longer. You know what I mean? There's more stuff, there's more context, there's more action, there's more plot, and it really does build the world out in ways I didn't even see coming or could, you know, imagine. So I cannot wait to watch Two Towers and Return of the King. And yeah, this is definitely the quintessential version of the Fellowship of the Ring. Thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.